right, welcome back to the Revamp Podcast. Today, got a special guest. Got Stacie Koroly. I'm saying that correct, right?
You are.
Koroly. Sweet.
Not many do.
I butcher names sometimes. It's a thing. So Stacie is an agent with EXP. We've known each other for a while now. And just like we were kind of joking about before we started, there's not a whole lot of agents that really get it from the investor perspective and everything, and you're one that does. And
yes,
I genuinely enjoy your company and everything, and you got a lot of knowledge to share, and I'm excited to have you here today.
I am thrilled to be here. Thank you for having me. Well, I don't know what direction we're going in, so let us know. Let me know.
Let us know in the comments below. No, so I like to just kind of start at the beginning. So how long have you been in real estate?
24, a little over 24 years. I started out selling new homes for Pulte Homes. I opened up Traditions at Longwood, Traditions at Enniscrone, and some other communities with Pulte. And I got tired of sitting in the model home waiting for people to come to me, sending, what did I have to do? I'd make calls, which you still have to do, and flyers. And I got sick of sitting in the model home. It was gorgeous, but I felt like I was in a beautiful prison. So I went into resales and never looked back.
Really?
It's been awesome. Yeah.
Okay. So 24 years.
So I have my son Joe with me here, and I was thinking about when I first started out, and one of my, and you may be able to touch on this too, like what was one of your biggest regrets is, so if you could go back in time, what would you have done different?
Let's go right into it, yeah.
And one was, I didn't reach out to the top agents in my office. I just thought, hey, we're all doing our own thing individually, and I'll learn along the way. Well, my experience was only relegated to the number of homes that I sold, to my interactions with the other agent across the way. So instead of, like, what I wish I did was join a team, like one of the top teams in the area, learn from them for a year or two or however long it took, and then do my own thing. Because I was telling Joe, it took me 15 years to figure out what I wanted, who I was as an agent, and what direction I wanted to go into, what my brand was, really. That 15 years could have been 3.
It could have. It's an interesting thought, though. Like, for me, whenever somebody asks me that question, like, what would you have done differently? What would you have done better and everything? It's always really hard because I like to think of it from like that butterfly effect principle. It's like, well, if I had gone back and I had done this, because now I have the knowledge and insight and wisdom because I've made a lot of mistakes along the way. But if I went back and did things differently, even though it may have made me more money or made me more successful faster or something, I also wouldn't be the person that I am today. Maybe I wouldn't have met some of the same people that I did, and I'm super grateful that I have done those things as well. So it's a really weird question for me. Maybe I think about it too deep, but...
No, because I think you and I are of the same ilk in that I learned things the hard way. That's how I learn, is hands-on experience. I think my thing was, if I had put my ego aside and had more conversations, like you did, like you're doing now. So you're talking to different people and getting different perspectives, which is awesome. That's something that I didn't do for years.
Do you think that was tied to ego?
Yeah, for me, yeah. Because I thought, well, my mom was an agent. I know what to do. I know how to sell a house. But I was also 20, Jesus, how old was I? 25.
Okay.
So I didn't have life experiences, and I could have leaned on other people if they were open to it, because a lot of agents aren't.
Sure.
So you walk into a lot of brokerages.
But nobody is if you don't ask, right?
Right. If you don't ask, you don't get, which is another thing that I love telling my kids. Like, hey, how would you know if you don't ask? All right, if someone says no, whatever. That's I love that life lesson.
Yeah.
I tell agents that all the time. If you don't ask, you don't get. Okay.
Absolutely.
So I love that. Yeah.
Yeah. That's huge. That's really deep, though, to be able to tie that lack of doing that and reaching out to ego. And I think you're right, and it's probably the same for a lot of people.
We could talk about
we
ego
all have
day
an
long.
ego, whether we think it or not, right?
Yes.
We do.
In our relationships, as whether you're a mom, a sister, whoever, a lot of that is tied to ego.
Yeah.
And we are our own, not worst enemies, but sometimes we're in our own way. Often.
So true.
And that took me years to figure out. And the places that I learned were from different coaches that I hired. And you do the same thing. And I think that's so impressive because you didn't start that, you haven't been doing this for decades. You just started doing this. And one of the first things that you did is hire a coach. Mm-hmm. I think you have one within and then without. Mm-hmm. And that has been for me, the past 5 to 7 years, that's made all the difference, is investing in yourself. That's the biggest payoff.
Yep.
It's not like, I want to use AI. That's going to make me rich, or I'm going to use this program or that program. It's literally investing in yourself health-wise, which that's another thing that took me years to figure out. And then also investing. I did Clubhouse for a couple years. That was the best education.
Really?
That was better than Villanova. It really was, and it was free.
Interesting.
And it was
so what was your
incredible.
experience with Clubhouse?
I was in a room with billionaires from different industries. I had met Don Hobbs, who was at the time the president of Success Magazine. We had Grant Cardone on, freaking awesome. We had the head of EXP, which was Glenn Sanford. And you're hearing these people, and what you realize is they're not much different from you.
Yep.
There's subtleties, and those little subtleties, those small things that they did on a consistent level are the reason why they are where they are today.
Absolutely.
And part of it is risk, but a lot of it is education and pouring into themselves.
Yep.
So that room, there were a couple things for me, and you could probably outline in your life, like, man, that was huge.
Yep.
So Clubhouse, if no one knows about it, it's basically like a live radio show. And you have people in the audience. Did you ever go on it?
I never was. No, I know what it is, but yeah, I never.
So it was when it was popular, that's when I joined, and you'd have people, like 150 people when Grant Cardone was on. Then it was like the room shut down because there was too many people listening. But you could ask people questions. You had access to people that you could never, or that you would spend thousands of dollars.
Yep.
Like, are you freaking kidding me?
That's
like Grant
cool.
Cardone, 10X. All right, cool. And he's sharing and just like talking. It was incredible.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it was. It was awesome. And
is it still a thing today? Is it still like going strong?
Yeah,
Are you still on there?
You could get the app, jump on, and then there's like Breakfast of Champions. So there's certain rooms that you can go on, and then that also helped me grow my Instagram. So I have a little over 3,000 followers that are still with me. So
Awesome.
Some people join, or some people are, I don't even know, but like they're fake. You could buy it. They're all real people. So I still have them, and I met them through Clubhouse. So that was huge.
Okay. That's huge. Yeah, that's awesome.
And then that helped me with ego. And like I have books of notes. So every day for an hour and a half, 7 to 8:30, there were moderators. I was one. But they'd use me as a guinea pig. And be like, Stacie, what about this? And I would talk, and they'd say, you know what? You can't say the word can't. You can't say the word but. And then it was really a mindset and ego thing.
Okay.
So with that the Clubhouse was awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, thinking again on the ego side of everything, like I've noticed, because in addition to coaching and mentors, like I'm part of different mastermind groups, and I've been in a few in the past and everything. And this is like totally something that stems from ego, but at least I was aware enough to realize it. Like I think you alluded to there is when you see other people that are what you paint in your mind as the definition of success. I see this guy, I see Grant Cardone, or maybe even not somebody like of that caliber or level, right? But somebody that, is a couple steps of where you're at right now. They're ahead, and that's what you're modeling as, I want to be like that person. And then you start to build a relationship with that person. You meet them in person, you're at an event, blah, blah, blah. And you do come to that realization that you're like, this is just another human, and
if they can do it,
they can do it.
Yep.
I can do it.
Yes.
And that probably does stem from ego, because you're like, well, I'm just as good, but that's a good thing. So if you can internally like manipulate your ego to be helpful rather than to be hurtful, that's a really good thing. So being around other people that are already doing it, your ego is automatically going to be like, well, I can do this too.
Yes.
I'm just as good.
So let's talk about this. You are the sum of the 5 people that you spend the most time with.
Yep.
So what I've learned over the past 5 years is I'll travel the country and hang out with the people that I like, and most of it isn't even business driven. It's how they live their life outside of the business and what they're doing.
I love that.
And the more people that I've met that are much more successful than me are the most humble, they come from a place of service. They'll help you out with that without expectation. And it's that's what I'm learning now. Mm-hmm. And it's super cool because in my mind for years I thought, this person's like this. What I see on social media is real. Like, they don't have down days. They don't fail and stumble. And it's the opposite. Yep. And the most successful people, and success is a different meaning for me, they're the most giving. And they want to share.
Very often. Very often. That's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because it's not what you would think. Like, I know that for me as a kid, it's like I didn't hate the rich by any means, but there always was that kind of like belief that the rich are bad, the rich are evil. And we still have that narrative massively today, right? And it's like usually, I mean, my life experiences and everything in the last 10 years of my life and business has showed me the exact opposite. It's more in line with what you're saying, that the most successful and wealthy people I know are the most generous, giving, and care about other people.
So I want to ask you this question, and this hopefully, I don't know, I'm banking on no one watching this, but it's you, so I know they are.
Let's go.
So here's the theory, and I don't want to give my bias. Do you think in order to be successful, you have to be a dick?
No.
Why do you think that? Because someone very close to me is like, you do. You have to be a jerk. You got to be a dick. You got to push people out of the way. I agree with you. But why do you think that?
I would start with the definition of success because it's going to be different for anybody,
yes.
Right? And just starting there in and of itself is like, well, if my definition of success is whatever, making $100,000 a year and only working 10 hours a week, it's like, okay, well, I can do that very easily, very simply. Of course, I don't have to really even work on self-improvement that much or manage other people and really interact with that many other people to do that level of revenue, right?
Right.
But taking it a step further, really, it's going to come down to my biases as well. And my biases are based on the relationships and the interactions that I've had over the last 10 years. And I have seen the opposite of that. Like, now, of course, there's been people along the way that, it's like,
they are successful and you're like, how are you still maintaining that? Because you're...
But I wouldn't define that as successful. That's where I would second guess it. It's like, I have absolutely looked at people and been like, wow, this guy's making a lot of money and he's an asshole.
Yeah.
But I also realized that that's probably not going to last forever. And even if it does...
Yeah. It's not who I am or who I'm aligned with.
It's definitely not who I am and what I want and what I want to be.
So it doesn't matter.
But even if I had... Just say I could 100x the amount of money that I make in any calendar year, but I have to be even a little bit more of an asshole as an overall personality characteristic of mine, I'm not making that trade-off. Right. I'm not fucking doing it.
I like that you said that because as you were talking about that, I was thinking it's none of my business. I guess it's none of my business if someone's a dick because I'm still going to be myself and I'm still going to operate under my values, my principles.
It makes it harder though, doesn't it?
MVP. Not anymore. It did for me. I'd be frustrated and be like, how is this agent killing it? They're such a jerk, or they're this, or they're that. And now,
you mean from like a comparison perspective?
Yes.
Okay. I just meant from actually like working with that person that happens to be a dick.
And that,
because nobody really enjoys that, dealing with somebody that's just difficult, you know?
Yeah, no. And then you're making me think of a lot of different things. That it is none of my business, and it's also none of my business what people think of me. So therefore, why would I care what someone else is doing when I'm on my own path?
Yeah.
I like that.
I think I have too much empathy, though. I really do. I really do. It's like I almost, even when somebody's a dick to me directly, in the back of my mind, like I may be at first like, oh man, kind of standoffish. That sucked. That was rude, whatever. But in the back of my mind, I'm like,
do you feel bad for
maybe they had a bad day.
Yeah.
Like maybe everything went wrong. Maybe this was the one in a million interactions where this person displays this side of them, right?
Yeah.
That's one of my massive like flaws. Like I just think
that's
too
not a flaw,
much
that's
into
a power. That's a power because the
blessing and a curse.
No, because what would happen if you didn't? Then you'd think in your head, that guy is a total douche or whoever. And you'd continually think that where
True.
you're not. So I think that's a power. Anyway, tangents. We're not even talking about real estate.
But it all ties together, right? And being so into this self-development side of it, and like you said, with coaches and groups and self-education, nothing else matters if you don't have that. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
Yeah.
I was in I think it was Las Vegas, and I had an opportunity to meet the top people at EXP who changed the way that we do business. And the one guy had almost died. And I didn't know this. And we're eating dinner, and I'm talking to him. And I was thinking in the back of my mind, I'm like, oh, my God, I have the opportunity to ask him anything I want in real estate and this and that. He had zero desire. And what he referred, I have to whip out my phone. Oh, my phone died. Had to do with his health. And he's like, I read this book. It changed my life. He had little chance of surviving this cancer diagnosis. And what he taught me had nothing to do with real estate. It had to do with your health, with working on yourself, which I thought was awesome. And then the more time that I spent with people that were higher level, I didn't talk to them about their systems. I didn't talk to them about how did you go to 100 million in a year? How did you build your team? What's your split? It was, how's your growth?
Yep.
What are you doing to get better? Oh, you became sober. When did you become sober? You work out 4 or 5 days a week or more. What are you doing?
Yep.
That stuff. It's wild.
It's the important stuff.
It is the important stuff.
It doesn't seem like it though, right? Because it seems like, oh, well, I can have a conversation with Stacie and learn a little bit more about prospecting, about, how I can serve my clients better or whatever. But it's like, okay, yeah, you may be able to pick up some things, no question about it. But you're much better suited, especially if you're talking about somebody that you respect and want to model some form of what they did.
Right.
You're so much better off learning and understanding the person. And just like with your son, we were talking about before we started that everything that we do in the wholesale company, right? There's so much shit information out there. Sorry.
Yeah.
And there's so much, oh, well, how do I get the perfect script? How do I say the right thing? How do I negotiate harder than anybody else ever, right? And get the best deals for the best prices and blah, blah, blah. And it's like really, like most things, it comes down to reverse engineering the seller's situation, their issue that they may have. And here's the biggest part. Ready for this? Actually giving a crap about what they have going on. Find out what they have going on, care, and help solve the problem. Boom. Like that was just a master class in sales.
And you just described what realtors should be doing.
Absolutely.
We're problem
it's the same,
solvers.
Yep. Any industry. Find the problem and solve the problem. And care.
Yes.
Care in the middle there, you know?
Yeah. Because you can, almost like I come from a teaching background, a coaching background. I played basketball at Villanova. And you need to be able to have that empathy and to put yourself in that situation. I could show you a play. I could show you how to break the press. I could show you dribble drills and all that stuff. That doesn't matter. Those are technical things. It's really the relational. It's not transactional. It's relational. That's what goes a long way. Mm-hmm. Whether you're a coach or a teacher or wholesaler or a realtor or you're in the pharmaceutical industry, it's the ability to be able to interact with people and relationships. That's why we're here, is really relationships.
Absolutely.
Like you could sell 100 homes. If you are in that transaction mode, you're going to live and die by that. Mm-hmm. It's relational, and that goes much, much longer way.
It does. It really does.
I want to talk about goals. So
let's talk about goals.
I've been learning about this. And let me know what you think about this. We need to be insatiable, or we need to really focus on our process and not so much the end result. So let's say you and Jess have a meeting, and you're like, all right, Jess, I want to do 120 units this year or whatever. I find now, because of the market and COVID and politics and all this other stuff, to be beyond passionate, literally, yes, insatiable, but nonstop about your process, because the things that you do on a daily basis, the little things that no other wholesaler is willing to do, or no other realtor is willing to do, the boring, the mundane, like you were telling Joe, like, yes, there's a lot of shit. There's phone calls to be made. There's emails. So 2 or 3 emails have to be out. There's the social media aspect. So, and there's also the relationship building. Like, do you focus on the leads that you have? Like, it's great to have incoming leads, but I believe that there is a fortune to be made with the people that you've already been working with for the past few years.
Absolutely.
Okay.
But the simple answer is both. And it's never the answer that anybody wants to hear, but it's like, well, what do you focus on? Well, you kind of have to focus on all of it a little bit, so to speak. But from a lead management perspective, like I beat that horse so bad for years that in our CRM, like right now we have a little over 32,000 leads.
That's unbelievable.
It's a lot, right? And of course, you could go a lot deeper in that, and it's like, well, what qualifies as a lead? You know, like really, of those 32,000 leads, there are people that at one point in time responded to a marketing piece that we sent. And we're super heavy on direct mail.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it's like at some point over the last 6 years, this person reached out to us probably from a postcard that we sent them, and they did not want to sell. That's why they're still there.
Right.
But they may eventually, right?
Everybody does, right?
So I beat that horse so bad for years that there are millions and millions of dollars in our CRM. And it's like, I can show it time and time again. It's like still to this day, most of our, it's like 60% of our contracts that we end up closing on, they were in our pipeline for more than 6 months, you know?
So you don't look at the amount of touches. Like for real estate,
we
they're
do.
like follow up. You have to follow up at least 20. So we figured out a sweet spot. And I learned this from going to Lake Tahoe and studying with the best teams and individual agents here in Canada. And they figured out almost to a science 26 to 32 times for real estate, for a buyer or seller.
Okay.
I think you are totally different. Do you ever archive anyone? Or
Yeah. I mean, we have the data on everything. Our CRM is really, really deep. It can be a whole black hole in and of itself because there's so much data, and you know. But yeah, I mean, we have leads that we have reached out to hundreds of times. God. Like, I gotta. Well, hold on one second. Let me see what happened with that. That's good. Work out the kinks here. That's good. Why did this turn off?
Does it turn off after a certain amount of time?
It shouldn't. It's not.
Is that the heater or what is that?
No, that's the computer. I guess because I have this camera hooked to the computer, and it's a super high resolution camera. It's making it work hard.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, so I guess we're still good.
It never stopped recording.
Yeah, it kept recording but shut off. So yeah, I have a story I want to tell you on the number of touches. So it was a couple years ago when I had first started building out our CRM and everything, and I was setting up some like automated text messages that would go out after a lead comes in. So the flow was basically lead comes in, we have the conversation with them, whether they're in a warm type of status or a not interested type of status would determine the text follow-up sequence that they would get.
Yeah.
And in the first week of setting all this up, It was set up so terribly, and I didn't even know. Like, there was just like an issue with
You
one
got
of the.
yelled at.
No.
Really?
This is the irony, right? So
I
I tried to set it up with this not interested status that, text message number 1 would go out after 14 days. Text message number 2 would go out after 60 days. Text message number 3 would go out after 120 days. Literally, it was supposed to be like a 1.5-year follow-up cycle with like
Great.
20 different messages.
Sounds good.
They all ended up going out every single day. So we ended up sending a text message, and they didn't even make sense at the sequence that they were going out at. It's like text message number 2 probably said something like, hey, I haven't talked to you in a month. Just wanted to see if you've thought about it anymore. And it's going out on day number 2. So this happened literally 20 days in a row. And this lead reached out to us. And by the way, a couple of the text messages in this sequence are, one of them that I remember was literally, do you hate me? It's literally just anything to elicit a response, right?
It's a bit aggressive.
But after 20 messages, 20 days in a row straight, this seller reaches out to us and they're like, hey, you've been really persistent, want to sell my property. It's like, oh my God, we messed up everything. Everything was wrong on this, and we ended up closing the deal out of it.
So now this leads me to my next thing, which is it's done is better than perfect.
Absolutely.
So just putting yourself out there, whether it was annoying, whether it was whatever, it still worked.
Yep.
And that led to a couple $1,000.
Yep.
And it was a mistake.
It was a mistake.
See, I'm a big believer in this, that it doesn't matter to a certain extent what your message is. It's the fact that you're in front of people, and he or she who is in front of you the most, it is who's going to get the business.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's
Absolutely.
incredible.
Yep.
Ours, we had a similar situation, but for me, I didn't have the positive result that you did.
No.
So mine was like, it was aggressive. It was KV Core, and their automatic responses are like rude. And it took me a couple weeks to figure out what was going on for people. So someone would come in the system, then they'd automatically, and if you didn't respond, then KV Core would say, listen, this is your last chance. It's like something so rude that people were like, what are you doing? Like, this is really rude. Take me off your list. I'm like, all right, cool. I'm glad it worked out for you, Drew. Did not work out for me.
Well, and that's the thing. It's like nothing ever works 100% of the time, right? So it's like there's always a balancing act. And we were just talking about it in a meeting before you guys got here. We're doing a new mail marketing campaign right now. And you do have to take into consideration there's a balance between, do I want to, what is my goal? What is my outcome with this marketing, right? It's like at the end of the day, your goal is obviously generate leads. In a perfect world, I would much rather only generate 5 leads that are going to actually convert to deals than generate 1,000 leads that are going to convert to 5 deals. And there's a whole lot more work and manpower involved and everything. So this is the pinnacle of success. This is what you want to do. But that leaves the question, okay, well, if we're going to tailor our marketing message to only the couple people that really are most likely to be our demographic, that are our ideal clients that will sell to us, am I alienating other people that could potentially be the right person to work with us?
Well, does that become, do you need to hire more people to sift through those leads? Or a virtual assistant? Or,
yes.
Like,
And that's the thing. It's like we do have the staff, we have the manpower for it and everything. Still, in a perfect world, it's like, well, you would rather have your salespeople on sales calls, not prospecting calls, because prospecting is not selling, right? So you always want to model for that perfect scenario. It's never going to be perfect. That's why there's a happy balance between, let me open my marketing message so it applies to a wider demographic of people.
Yeah.
And that might mean that my message to you is not going to be as personalized as it could be.
Right.
But it's more applicable to more people, which means more people will probably reach out. And yes, we will have to field more calls and everything, but that's what we do.
Well, and you're very good at this. You have to figure out what your return on investment is for doing that. I'm of the different mind where, like, I specialize in 55 and over. That's my niche. So I'll go hyper local there. And I'd rather, because I'm one person, although I will get a virtual assistant in 2024, I'd rather focus my skill on that.
Okay.
And I think I would have a better rate of return on them because I've been doing it for 24, 25 years than across the board.
I love it.
But it's different industries. It's different.
It is, but the foundation and the fundamentals are the same. So with the 55 and up communities, like, what is your strategy? If you'll share that.
It is Actually, it is universal. Before we started talking, I'm like, no one can duplicate me. Because I've been doing it for 24, 25 years, I know certain things, floor plans and HOA fees and what's included, what isn't. But for that, this can be applied whether you're a mortgage person, whether you are doing wholesaling, whether you're a realtor, which is the multi-channel marketing. And I think you're doing it right now, which means you take a look at your social media, you look at your LinkedIn, Instagram, you do TikTok, I do not. My kids won't let me do it. Even though I should have started doing it 3 to 4 years ago, Joe, I know who I'm going to reach because the top agents they've been doing it for years. Thank you.
You'd be surprised, yeah.
Because their kids could be like, Mom, look at this agent. They're so cool. Whatever. So multi-channel marketing is this. And I learned it from John Cheplack, who was one of my coaches. 2 days a week, you're going to send out videos that either educate, inform, or you focus on a local business. So that's 2 videos a week. You start out with 2 emails. So I use MailChimp. I love it. Out of all the different platforms, whether it's BombBomb or even KV Core, after a certain amount of people in that database, 500 or more, they start to go into spam. So you think that it's getting to people, it's not.
Yep.
MailChimp I like. So you start out 2 days a week, you take a look at your open rate. So if it's 30% or more, now you're going to crank it up, and now you're going to do it 3 days a week or 4 days a week. So you have the email, and it's the same piece of content. So you're going to do Facebook, Instagram, I'll throw in TikTok and LinkedIn or Twitter. And you can use that video. You can talk about stats, quarterly stats, whatever, how many homes are for sale in Delco or Chester County, or for me, 55 and over. And then a letter once a month, letter or postcard.
Okay.
But you're always giving value. You are not asking. Nobody wants to be sold. Everybody wants to buy.
Yep.
So you're attracting through interviewing a local business or saying like, hey, here's the 3 best places to buy a Christmas tree. Or here's what's going on in media, or Malvern or Westchester Parade was just last week, or focusing on a local business. I had gotten 1.1 million in listings from interviewing my friend Colleen Crossett. She's a CrossFit trainer during COVID. People were like, oh my God, I took the focus off of me. I focused on her and what she does. She was doing workouts in her house. 1.1 million in sales cost me nothing. And I was helping someone else.
Hell
like,
yeah.
we're talking to each other.
Yep.
Like, this is the shit. This is when you help people and you come from a place of service, it's going to come back to you. So I'm sorry. So the multi-channel marketing, 2 emails a week. I like MailChimp. Posting every day, the 2 videos. So 2 videos on social media, but you're posting every day. The MailChimp campaign twice. Paper mail once a month. And you touched on it. How important it is, because yes, people still read the mail.
Oh my God, absolutely.
Even if you're standing by the trash can.
Yep.
Oh, there's Drew again.
Yep.
The point is to pop up in people's minds.
Absolutely. There's a branding aspect to it, for
and
sure.
People are like, it's such a waste. I did it for a couple months. No, you have to do it consistently.
Yeah.
Do you do every door direct?
We have, but
I looked into
with
it.
what we do, it's not.
Yeah, it's not feasible.
No.
Because you have certain. It's not like I'm going to do the whole neighborhood. And
Well, we're just such a small portion of the market anyway, right? It's like, I don't know what the numbers would be, but out of, however many residents there are in a county, I'm sure only 3%, I'm making that up, are even interested in selling their property,
at the
right?
time, yes.
And 0.01% of that 3% is actually our demographic of really rundown, crappy properties that they want to sell at a steep discount, right? So going every door direct mail is not.
Yeah, that's not going to work. It's not the best.
Not cost effective for us. Not cost effective. But
yeah.
you have done some of that?
Yeah, I did, and then I stopped doing it. Then the market was great, and then, like most people, it was like, all right, well, I'm just, people are calling me out of the woodwork, and now we're in a point where Everybody has to go back to basics if you walked away from it.
Sure. Yep.
I am not shy, nor are you, to hard work.
Yep.
So I'm like, all right, cool. Like,
Yep.
let's go. It doesn't bother me. I'll make 80 calls, 100 calls a day.
Love it.
And it is a numbers game because I have it, and then I would suggest agents track this. I can give out sheets. I have them. How many calls that lead to how many conversations out of 80 calls? For me, it was 20. Then how many appointments do you land for? How many sales does that lead to? It's at least 1 out of 4 appointments I know I'm going to sell a house
Beautiful.
that day. So it's like, all right, well, if this is what you need to do on a daily basis, and everybody should be spending 2 hours a day or more. So whatever this is something that I learned recently, which is awesome. Whatever your skill is, you should be devoting 60% of your day to that skill. Not answering emails, not doing busy work, not looking at a file and being like, all right, is this 60% of your day should be on your master?
What is that for you?
That's an awesome question. I like being on the phone. Like, I get sick to my stomach when people see agents killing it, whatever, sales. They think, well, they've been in the business for a long time. Or they don't have to do work. They get referrals. And the truth of the matter is, for you and me and any hard-working agent that's successful, they're doing it on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
But I get sick to my stomach the first couple calls. First 2...
Still to this day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love video. Like,
Okay.
I loved community theater when I graduated from school. Like, so I love that, but I don't care who you are. If you're not sick to yourself or nervous the first couple calls, and then you get into it, then it's awesome. And then you're talking to people about their lives. Hey, I haven't talked to you in a while. What's going on with you? It unless they're, I don't know, psychopath. Like, they're going to say, how are you doing? And then you can talk about whatever you want to. But, the first couple calls are hard. But the calls I love. I love hearing stories with people. Mm-hmm. It is the relationship for me.
Totally.
And I got away from that for a while, though, because it was so busy.
Yep.
I was on all these appointments. So that's my Superman skill.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. That's awesome. And, for a lot of people, I think that they don't even put in enough hard work up front to really understand what their strength is, because you figure it out by trying stuff.
Right. Exactly. And that's a reel right there. Like, and you said it, people shy away from doing the hard work. Mm-hmm. They'll go to events. I never went to events for 15 years. I'm like, that's a waste of my freaking time. I'll do my continuing ed and I'll figure it out. Events are important, but if you put a business plan, you go, I worked really hard today. I know what I'm going to do in 2024. And you put that shit in a drawer, that's where it's going to stay.
Doesn't matter.
I want to do an event. I am doing an event in 2024. That's the unbusiness plan that focuses on what your daily activities are. And every quarter, so we're going to go to the board. You have to proclaim, this is what I want to sell. But we're going to focus on the process. I know that we talked about that.
Well, you have to reverse engineer it. So I think that's a great place to start.
So you
have to
start there,
yeah.
but that's not the end-all, be-all.
That's not what you're looking at on a daily basis.
Yes. Yep. So we're going to go deep and be like, here are the activities that you need to do on a daily basis, minimum 2 hours a day. And if agents work 2 hours a day in their database, they would be rich.
Yep.
And I'll say it again. If you do the work, you have a database, stop buying leads. If you have a certain amount of leads, at 500 or 100, there's money in those 100 people. But you have to reach out to them. You have to do the work. You're not just sending off homes. Well, I sent them a home. They saw it. They opened it up. No, you have to, like in our database, I can see what someone's looking at. I really freak them out. I call them within 5 minutes. Hey, I saw you open up this house. You want to take a look at it. What did you think of it? Why did you like it or didn't like it?
Hell yeah.
So the unbusiness plan in January, I think it's going to be January 11th. Of course, you're invited. But then every quarter we revisit. And those people that declared in 5 minutes or less, 2 things. How many homes are you going to sell? And what would it look like if you hit that goal in your personal life?
I love it.
It's fucking empowering. And knowing that you have to get in front of that group and, okay, you declared this. Here's where you are in a safe environment. Not like attacking, like
Yep.
we are all in this together. There's nobody perfect that I've met
Yep.
that's alive right now. Like nobody.
Yep.
But every quarter and revisiting that and hey, what could you have done? What went wrong? And literally lifting each other up. So that's what I'm interested in. That's my next event. But events in general, going back, I digress because I talk too much, is events are important and they serve only if you leave and you start implementing.
Yep.
How many times do you see people that are like, oh my God, I love it. You're Tony Robbins or you're here or you're there, whatever. And you're like, I got this. And then you go home and nothing happens.
Yep.
If people just implemented one or two things from an event that they've learned, that's going to positively affect their business. I say this because for years, I would do Brian Buffini and be like, holy shit, I met him. Oh my God, and he's awesome. Came from Ireland with like $17. He's now a millionaire, a billionaire. Awesome. And he helped many, many people. But if you're not going to do the work, it's useless.
Doesn't matter.
You can sit in a class at Stanford, Harvard, any amazing school, University of Chicago, and you don't do the work, it's a waste.
Yep.
And I will say this, and I learned this in Clubhouse. If you take a triangle, and I know you're going to agree with this, which is why I love this. You could have more education than me. You could have more experience than me. The base, the foundation is the desire and is the work ethic. And if you do that, that other stuff is going to align.
Absolutely.
And you could have all the knowledge in the world. If you're not going to use it, cool, get out of my way.
Yep.
You could have all the experience. You hear agents say it all the time. I've been an agent for 20 years, for 30 years.
I love it.
Cool, you sell 2 to 4 homes. Amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I will outwork anyone. That's why I love this market. It's like, all right, 60,000 plus agents have left.
Yep.
All right, great. I have some agents are like, I'm bored, I'm slow. Whip out your phone and take a look at how many contacts you have. Start calling people. Mm-hmm. And when people feel lost, the best thing that you could do is help someone.
Absolutely. Yeah, because if there's any sort of uncertainty, turmoil in a market, the economy, inflation's happening,
Yes.
people are worried, people are concerned. And how do you negate that? Well, education and relationships,
Yes.
right? So you do more education and
Yes.
everything, and you help people more. You focus deeper on the relationships and what they really need. Can I help? Do I have the skills? Do I have the resources to be able to help? And
I feel like we're talking the same language.
Yeah.
What coaches do you have? Like, what did you, I'm telling you,
I've had
I've
many.
spent, so have you, thousands upon thousands of dollars. Do you think it was worth it?
Oh, absolutely. I haven't had the mental fortitude to actually look at the numbers to see what I've spent, but it's been definitely in excess of $250,000 in the last 5 years.
Right.
Yeah.
So you could have bought a house for cash for
Oh, yeah.
$250,000.
Yeah.
But I consider it priceless and ongoing, always.
But what's the ROI or return on ad spend or whatever of putting that money into yourself?
It's priceless,
Absolutely.
I think.
I think so.
I love it. Like at first,
It
I got
served
some
me well.
pushback. Oh my God, yeah. Obviously, we're in this podcast room, thousands of dollars worth of equipment, but yeah, it all goes back to basics. And some people think that there's a magic bean,
Yep.
or there's an answer. Oh, I saw this on TikTok. Oh my God, I could do that.
Right.
And there is no substitute for hard work. None.
Absolutely.
I
And really, I
found
feel
it-
like that's my superpower anyway.
Yes.
And it sucks because, I have had mentors in the past that almost shamed me for that. They're like, no, man, like the level that you're at, you're running a multi-million-dollar a year company. You're doing this. You got 10 employees. You got this. You should be working less. You should have the systems. You should have the processes, and the people should be able to run it for you. You should be able to run your business in 20 hours a week, not the 60, 80, 100
But I
hours.
feel that
and I'm like, but that's what I fucking do.
Yeah.
And
And if you take yourself away from that and something happens, the market changes or whatever, how the hell are you going to get back into that?
Absolutely. Well, it's hard, really. It's
And
very hard because
that's-
that happened to me largely earlier on this year, end of last year, with a bunch of changes, buying the office building and everything. A bunch of stuff went wrong. It took my attention and focus away from a
Yeah.
lot of things. And that's a very real thing when you lose momentum. Momentum is real.
It is real. And I love that you said that. I wanted to go back real quick to you saying it took your attention away, because what's happening with a lot of real estate teams is you have a monarchy or a patriarchy where this is the rainmaker and they do little. They give out leads. They train people what to say this in this scenario, do this, do that. Now, and I heard a team say this. Well, I'm just like a doctor, and you have the secretary answer the phone, and then you have the nurse, and then you do this and that, and then I walk in, and I'm like, really? How's that working out for you now? You haven't been doing the work. You haven't maintained any relationships.
If you're going to make a claim like that, you better have your shit together, and you better have that team, and there better be a process, and you better be closing, in top percentages. But if not,
right, you walked away.
Don't act like you got your crap together, because
no, you're having your ass. And I'm seeing it across the board. I have broker metrics. I'm looking at teams, top offices, agents, and I'm like, you walked away. I walked away, but it didn't hurt me as much, and I'm back in it.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'll outwork. I'll do whatever it takes. It doesn't matter. Like that's easy for me. Yep. That stuff is easy when I see other people have systems, and I think like there's something to be said for working smarter, not harder.
For sure.
But I also appreciate that you do the little things, because that matters. Like when you're at a point where you don't have to do anything, you're on auto, there's a lot of trust that needs to be had with the people that you hired, doing it the way that you would do it. And very few people can do it the way that you want it done. But to be in that position, I think that's a huge risk. I like getting my hands dirty. I like working hard. I like doing things that maybe should be outsourced to someone else, because I know that it's getting done right.
Yep.
And I know that that's my name attached to it. So those people that shamed you, whatever.
Yeah.
They're on their own.
It is what it is.
I think
and some of them were very successful and great coaches and mentors and everything. But I think that's a big thing also, is being able to read between the lines, whether, you're in a group, you have a mentor, you're in a mastermind, or just you read an article or whatever. Like, first you have to be able to delineate between real, factual, and false bullshit, right? That's step one. But then it's being able to read between the lines and how is this applicable to me? Because the right information and feedback and systems and processes for you that will help take your business from where it's at to 10x where it is going to be totally different than what it is for me. So if I were to read your business plan and literally ask you every single thing that you do on a daily basis, and I replicated it and did the same thing, I might fucking fail and crash and burn.
Yeah.
So you have to be able to read between the lines. It's like, okay, well, again, going back to the people and the relationships, well, I understand that Stacie does A, B, C, and D, but I also understand that the way that she is her strength is A, B, C, and D. And that's not my strength. So while this may be the perfect plan for her, I think for me to have any sort of success with it at all, I need to tweak this a little bit, and I need to do this, and I need to do this. And again, you learn that through trial and error as well. But
I love that. It is true. What works for you does not work. Everybody's different. And I think if anyone takes something away from this podcast, it is, number one, figure out what your strength is. Mm-hmm. And number two, I was taught, like, oh, you got to work on your weaknesses. That goes off to the side. Yep. Whatever your strength is, you magnify that. And you spend 60% on that mastery every single day in whatever you do in life. And you'll be fine. You'll be more than fine.
I love that. I
think this was great.
Let me ask you real quick. I still don't understand this whole NAR lawsuit shit, and I want to hear your take on it, because ultimately, whatever it really means, I feel like it doesn't make a difference. So give me your take on this whole NAR lawsuit thing, and what's it mean for agents, and what's it mean for home sellers or home buyers?
I think it's going to take a while for all the lawsuits to either be paid out or come to an end. I started studying it in the beginning in Missouri, and the lawsuit that's happening there's the verdict. NAR is appealing. The people that are going to benefit is this. It's the lawyers.
Absolutely. That was my take.
So the lawyers
without
that
even
are
going super
making
deep into
40%.
it. So
people get up in arms, and I did have a very nice civil conversation with a friend of mine that owns an insurance company who was up in arms. And he goes, I can't believe you get paid this amount. I can't believe you. And we're talking about how the way people get paid, it is up to us as agents to explain our value, to tell people in the beginning, hey, here's what we do. Here's how we get paid.
Yep.
I mean, I'm sure you know attorneys that make $500 to $1,000 an hour or more.
Absolutely.
They deserve what they're getting paid, and people are happy to pay for it. I believe that agents are not going anywhere. There's a huge need for us, based on the reasons that you provided, like what you do and being able to read between the lines, and not just being a realtor, but at times a marriage counselor. At times, like 50 other things come into play. But it's our duty. And I've been doing it, so I have nothing to worry about. I know what my value is. I know how to explain it in an intelligent manner. And I stand by the value that I provide. But really, there's agents out there that aren't going over the consumer notice, that aren't explaining, and they're saying, sign here. Well, you're not doing anybody a service. Frankly, you should leave the business. But with the lawsuits, they'll be appealed. It's going to take years. The attorneys are going to get richer and richer. I don't know that the industry is going to change that much. If you look at a listing agreement, it will say it is negotiable. Mm-hmm. And I don't hide or shy away from that. I tell people, like, here's the most important parts of this listing agreement.
Yep.
Or if I'm a buyer's agent, hey, we're going to go on a couple dates, then I'm going to give you a contract that binds us together. Here's the value that I provide. And in the 55 and over, there's nobody that knows these communities better than I do. I consider myself priceless because it's taken me 24 years to get where I am. So in terms of those lawsuits, I'm sure it'll start popping up in every state. Mm-hmm. Now that Missouri happened,
yep.
I was reading that the attorney at court turned to the other one and said, game on. Now we're going to go to another state. Now it's $100 billion.
Yep.
And I don't know who that serves.
The message that they're trying to convey, right, is that they're serving the sellers. We're keeping more money in the seller's pocket. It's like bullshit. You're taking that money and putting it in a lawyer's pocket instead of the agents and brokerages and everybody else involved in the transaction, right? It's in every state. It's not going to save anybody money.
Right. The house will still be priced. Yes.
That's been my perspective anyway, like with commissions as a whole, even before this came out. It's like, well, who's really paying them? Is it the seller or the buyer? Simple answer is
it's both.
Both. Yeah. It's like, it doesn't matter if it's coming out of the seller's proceeds if the money is coming from the buyer in the first place. So who's really paying it? Both.
and again, it goes to value and how you run your business. And there are agents out there that don't run a good business, just like there's not good lawyers, just like there's in every industry.
Sure.
And it comes down to value, and it is all negotiable. Mm-hmm. I've never tried to hide that. I've never said this is what it is and I can't break it. So for me, I just look at it. I'm like, all right, cool. I'm going to go about my business the way that I've always gone about my business.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, the people that are worried about it, those are the people that can't show their value or they can't articulate it.
That's right.
Shame on them.
Yep.
Okay. Again.
It's funny, like, because years ago, like when I first started out and I was flipping houses and everything, I always, when I bought a house, whatever, had an agent and everything. But then when I was selling, I would always use a flat rate listing brokerage on my own and do that myself and everything.
Yeah.
As a result of that, it led me to believe that even 6-7 years ago, I was like, man, the industry is going to change soon. Like listing agents aren't really going to be a thing. Because if I can do this on my own, just spending a couple $100 and blah, 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 whatever. And it's funny how over the years, my perception and perspective on that has changed. And I'm like, no, like there's so much, like even when I do have a flip now and we're listing it ourselves in-house, right? It's like, well, I have a team that is handling that, which are also getting paid, right? And there's a massive amount of stuff to deal with, a lot of
Yes.
things that can go wrong,
Yes.
a lot of things you have to handle and everything. So like I started with the knowledge or the
I would think the same
position that this is easy.
And
if I can do it, why can't anybody do it?
Right.
And even at that though, even when I was doing that when I first started, the reason that I was able to do it is because I was willing to put in any amount of
Right.
time,
Yes.
any amount of effort into it. I would negotiate with agents. I would do all the dirty work that most people don't see.
Yeah.
Most people think it's really easy and really simple. I was just naive and just as a workhorse,
No,
I
most
dealt
people-
with it, you know,
And
but
again, that's our industry's fault for not explaining, like, hey, here's some things that we do. Now, I will say on social media, I've seen this post and I can't stand it. And it's, so you think you can be a realtor? And then someone outlines, like, these are all the things that I do. No one gives a shit. No one cares what you're doing. They only care, what are you going to do for me? So when you start explaining on social media, this is all the things that we do, it's over. The game is over. You're over explaining. I've never seen a lawyer go on Facebook and say, so you think you can be a lawyer? Here's how
Right.
we get paid. Like, stop doing that. That's utter nonsense.
Yep.
You have to show it. And there are nuances. Like, for instance, this year, I helped a seller move. They weren't out of the house. It's the day's settlement. Over 4 hours, putting stuff in a dumpster. Is that my job? No, it's not my job. Who cares? But I'll step up and I'll do it.
Yep. It's
So
a part
there's
of it.
little things like that, yeah, people overlook, but I'm not going to bring it up on social media and say, look what I do. Look at me. This is why I get paid the big bucks.
Right.
Like, I will say this, you've been through it, you get one great realtor, and it is a freaking game changer.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's it.
I mean, yeah, at the end of the day, especially from the investment side of it and everything, having somebody that understands your needs, what your goals and outcome are as a flipper, landlord, whatever, and then can feed deals to you, like that's huge. That's
Oh my
massive.
God,
When
yeah.
you find that person, you buddy up to them forever, right?
Yeah.
So with that, you have the event coming up in January and everything, which, by
Yes.
the way, this sounds a whole lot more like a mastermind than just like an event, right?
Yeah. Well, because it requires every quarter people go into
It's an
the board.
ongoing thing.
Yes.
Okay.
This
So
isn't
how
a
do people
one and
get more
done.
information about that?
I will have it set up, and then I'll be emailing agents through MailChimp. I will find you.
You will find them.
And you know I have a big mouth, so everybody will know.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. That's fantastic. So
Yes.
if people want to find you on social media,
Yes.
Facebook, Instagram, where are you?
I am on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and it's the Stacie Koroly team, or personal on Facebook is Stacie Koroly.
Perfect.
But yeah, thank you for giving me this platform and the ability to talk to you.
No, this is awesome.
It was
I think it's been
awesome.
super helpful. I think a lot of people will get a lot of insight and value from it, and I appreciate you being here.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Stacie.
All right.
Boom.